Hello, everyone. We have got the group commander joined. Sir, shall we begin the session? With your permission, sir?
Please, madam.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Vande Mataram. Respected dignitaries on the platform, officers, my colleagues, and cadets. I hope you're all keeping safe. Though the pandemic has had its take by locking us in our house, but that we are still working for the causes we believe in is the proof for the fact that we will survive. This too shall pass. Humanity will win this war against the pandemic, and the battles that we have fought and won in the yesteryears gives us hope and determination to move ahead. And that is one main reason why we are all gathered here today. Let us begin saluting the Corona warriors who work day in and day out, caring for each and every life, preaching the lessons of survival and not letting us breach the COVID protocol. Jai Hind to all the soldiers out there. Before we get to the presentations, let me get to my duty of according you all a very warm welcome. At the onset, let me welcome NCC Directorate Additional Director General Major General Mandeep Singh Gill in absentia, who incessantly guides and supports us in all our ventures. We have with us our Group Commander at Ernakulam Group Headquarters, Commodore Harikrishnan Sir, who envisions and encourages activities enhancing the holistic development of the cadets in all possible ways. He has earlier served as the director of the Indian Navy Center for Ethics, Leadership and Behavioral Studies, Principal Director Strategy at Naval Headquarters, and as the Operations Officer of the Western Fleet. Trained at the National Defense College, New Delhi, and German Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Hamburg. His commands include the frigate Satpura, corvette Kamuk, and gunnery training base Dronacharya. Your presence itself is highly encouraging, sir. I accord you a very warm welcome to this platform. Welcome, sir. 7 Kerala Girls Battalion Commanding Officer Colonel Joseph Anthony has joined us today. He's an officer who always ensures quality in imparting training and grooming to the cadets, a person whom we can always look up to. Welcome, sir. We have with us.
Thank you.
We have with us Adam officers, ALOs, GZIs, and our pride, our dear cadets today. I formally welcome you to the webinar on behalf of the hosting group, 7 Kerala Girls Battalion, and hosting institution, Vimala College, THRISSUR. We are highly privileged that we have with us on this platform such acclaimed officers who have seen and studied war from close quarters. I request our group commander, Commodore Harikrishnan Sir, to kindly address the gathering. Thank you so much, sir. Please, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Officers from the Kerala and Lakshadweep Directorate, Ernakulam Group, 7 Kerala Girls Battalion NCC, in particular, Colonel Joseph Anthony, our moderator, Lieutenant Lavji Satish, Professor of English at the Vimala College in Thrissur, various ANOs and GCIs present here online, and the 84 Senior Wing and Senior Division cadets from Kerala. A very good morning to all of you. Firstly, let me thank Lieutenant Lavji for those kind words of introduction, as well as for having broached the topic by bringing in the subject of the Corona warriors. It is indeed a privilege to see all of you senior cadets bright and cheerful this morning, despite the Chinese Wuhan virus pandemic, which Lieutenant Lavji alluded to. Especially the second phase that has mysteriously arrived in India, spreading from north to south and across the breadth of our nation. So your presence this morning reflects the indomitable spirit of our nation. At this moment, of an attack by the Chinese origin virus and the various mutants attributed to other regions. I used a few terms. Indomitable spirit, I said. While under attack, I said, talking about the pandemic. Barring the few who will disparage anything, most of us, the majority of us Indians, have shown a resilience that has flabbergasted much of the rest of the world. That same resilience, that same indomitable spirit while under attack is the topic for today's webinar, the Battle of Longewala. I shan't go into the description of the battle because that is for all of you to do. But let me try to capture a few truths about war fighting. When Pakistan chose to start the war on the 3rd of December 1971, Pakis forgot that any side can start a war. But the enemy too has a say in deciding when and how the war will end. And Longewala was one of the first major attacks by the Pakis on the Western Front. It was routed by a force much smaller. You can imagine, they start a war, the first major thrust thwarted in a manner unimaginable. It stopped the Pakis in their tracks. It ripped their morale. And a handful of men did it through good leadership, through a group of hardy men who would follow their leader anywhere. All of that you will be covering today. Every single one of them a trait that we try to inculcate in you cadets, and those traits have already been inculcated and demonstrated by all the seniors who are attending the webinar today online. So it leaves me with the task of merely wishing well to the teams that have prepared, who have researched, and are going to give us the presentations on the Longewala battle. My best wishes also to the officer commanding of the 7 Kerala Girls Battalion NCC for having organized this webinar, as well as to Lieutenant Lavji, who would be moderating our webinar. I wish her all the very best, and I have no doubts that there can be no one better qualified to actually handhold all the senior cadets here today through this webinar and its proceedings. Ladies and gentlemen, the battle that we are going to discuss today will throw up many lessons. Learn them. All the very best to you, and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir, for that insightful words. Definitely, we will take those two words as the spirit of this webinar, indomitable spirit and resilience. Definitely, these two words are not just words. This is something that would help us move ahead, fight ahead these times of pandemic. A hero is someone who has given his or her life to something bigger than oneself, as we see in the case of the Corona warriors and our own soldiers who have fought for our nation. Dear friends, war offers very relevant lessons in life to both the soldiers and to civilians. We are so privileged that we live in secure houses with all the basic amenities available to us. Just think of the soldiers out there who stay alert for the safety day in and day out, not caring for their amenities. The Indian military has fought major battles in the past and has been active till date. One of the heroic battles fought by India, the Battle of Longewala, fought during 1971 Indo-Pak War, will be the topic of discussion today. So now it is time for a launch video. I request the technical team to give us a spectacular view of what we are exactly going to discuss in this webinar. Over to the technical session. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that video. Let me now introduce the aim and purpose. Let me now introduce to you the aim and purpose of this webinar. The tale and valor of heroism that men showed at the battlefield of Longewala is still alive in the hearts of every Indian. The Longewala battle happened between Pakistan and India in 1971, which saw India defeat Pakistan, and it led to the liberation of Bangladesh. Any war teaches us how to exude confidence when faced with calamity or death. After all, engaging in war takes tremendous courage. Aren't we waging a war against corona pandemic right now? Now, this webinar intends to instill the same spirit in all its participants today. And to quote from our group commander, definitely that indomitable spirit and that of resilience. So let us take off now. Let's move on to the first presentation, and our first presenter is Cadet Shivani, and she will give you highlights on the Battle of Longewala. Over to you, Shivani.
Good morning to one. I'm Cadet Shivani Battalion. I'm here to present the highlights of Longewala. Longewala was one of the first major battles in the West sector during the India-Pakistan War. The battle was fought between assaulting Pakistani forces and Indian defenders at Indian border post Longewala, a town near Jaisalmer. Fought between 120 Indian soldiers, accompanied by 2,000 soldiers, accompanied by 30 to 40 tanks. It was Indian Army's 23rd Battalion, Punjab Regiment, commanded by Major Kuldeep Singh Chhatwari. Being outnumbered by approaching Pakistani troops, who were 2,000 in numbers, comparing with a small number of 1. Major Kuldeep decided to fight by asking for reinforcement. Reinforcement form of force was only possible next week. Then Major Kuldeep and his team had to tactfully face the enemy army. Chhatwari all his assets were correctly deployed and made the most use of his strong defensive position, as well as weaknesses created by errors in enemy tactics. The armed force of RCLG destroyed many of the enemies in the raid. As documented, IAF played the most important enemy outnumbered ground battalion. Battalion F charged and contained the attack, was carrying out a retreat company to rubber. A reinforcements would not be available for at least 6 hours. Considering that Chhatwari's command had no transportation and was facing a mobile enemy, he decided to maintain the defensive position of the post where his troops at least had the benefit of prepared defensive work. Rather than conducting a withdrawal at night, that was far more restrictive. IAF was not able to escape the night. IAF jets were not equipped with was able to reach the battle site only from connecting combat until down. Experiencedly kept the individuals were in last number. The Air Force took the who was and that they lost the plot and fled, and the battlefield leaving their untouched. Battle of Longewala, so and few should say that were independent and heavy losses on Pakistan. In the battle was killed along with the colors. Longewala was afraid that she role of Indian poverty down of a club played by Philippe Singh and his men is now to them to inform them yes was kind and important the
Shivani, am I audible?
yes ma'am.
I think there is a technical glitch. Do not worry, we'll be back with a video. All right, and we'll join you back then. All right?
Okay ma'am.
All right. Kindly excuse the technical delays happening. Over to the technical team.
के भारत पाकिस्तान युद्ध के दौरान एक बड़ी ही अहम लड़ाई लड़ी गई थी, लोंगेवाला की लड़ाई, जहां रेगिस्तान में अपने एक आउटपोस्ट की हिफाजत के लिए मेजर कुलदीप सिंह चांदपुरी के नेतृत्व में 23 पंजाब के जांबाज जवानों ने अपनी दृढ़ इच्छा शक्ति से नाकाम कर दिया। 1970-71 में पाकिस्तानी सेना भारत की पश्चिमी सीमाओं पर इकट्ठा हो रही। 1971 के भारत पाकिस्तान युद्ध के दौरान एक बड़ी ही अहम लड़ाई लड़ी गई थी, लोंगेवाला की लड़ाई, जहां रेगिस्तान में अपने एक आउटपोस्ट की हिफाजत के लिए मेजर कुलदीप सिंह चांदपुरी के नेतृत्व में 23 पंजाब के जांबाज जवानों ने अपनी दृढ़ 1971 के भारत पाकिस्तान युद्ध के दौरान एक बड़ी ही अहम लड़ाई लड़ी गई थी, लौंगेवाला की लड़ाई, जहां रेगिस्तान में अपने एक आउटपोस्ट की हिफाजत के लिए मेजर कुलदीप सिंह चांदपुरी के नेतृत्व में 23 पंजाब के जांबाज जवानों ने अपनी दृढ़ इच्छा शक्ति से नाकाम कर दिया। 1970-71 में पाकिस्तानी सेना भारत की पश्चिमी सीमाओं पर इकट्ठा हो रही थी, क्योंकि पाकिस्तान के जनरल्स का इरादा था कि पूर्वी पाकिस्तान की सुरक्षा के लिए भारत की पश्चिमी सरहदों पर हमला किया जाए, ताकि भारतीय सेना उस तरफ उलझ जाए और वो पूर्व में दखल ना दे सके। उन्हें लग रहा था कि इस तरह से भारत के पास ऐसे साधन नहीं बचेंगे कि वो पूर्वी पाकिस्तान के इलाकों पर कब्जा कर सके। काफी मुश्किल चुनौती का सामना करना पड़ा उन्हें। पाकिस्तानी टैंक्स जो जैसलमेर जाने वाली सड़क पर था और वो आगे बढ़ती पाकिस्तानी सेना के निशाने पर था, मगर भारत के मिलिट्री कमांडर्स ने 23 पंजाब की अल्फा कंपनी में उन्हें लौंगेवाला के उस सरहदी पोस्ट पर अक्टूबर 1971 में भेजा गया था। लौंगेवाला की अहमियत इसलिए भी ज्यादा थी कि वो रामगढ़ लौंगेवाला और साधेवाला जाने वाली सड़कों के टी जंक्शन पर था, और अगर पाकिस्तानी सेना लौंगेवाला पार कर लेती तो बड़ी आसानी से जैसलमेर तक पहुंच जाती। जब मेजर चांदपुरी ने लौंगेवाला पोस्ट की कमान संभाली तो उनके साथ सिर्फ 100 जवान थे और उनके डेप्यूटी थे एक युवा लेफ्टिनेंट धर्मवीर, जो उनके कंपनी ऑफिसर थे। उनके अलावा वहां कुछ बहादुर और दिलेर जेसीओज और एनसीओज भी थे, जो किसी भी आर्मी यूनिट में जूनियर लीडर होते हैं। बात जहां तक हथियारों और एम्युनिशन की थी, तो भारतीय सेना के इन्फेंट्री के जाबाजों के पास हाथ में पकड़े जाने वाले हथियार थे, और मेजर चांदपुरी के जवानों के पास 2 जीप थी जिनके ऊपर एंटी टैंक गन्स लगी थी। साथ में खतरनाक और सटीक 106 mm आरसीएल के अलावा बड़ी संख्या में मोटर्स और एंटी टैंक माइंस भी थी, और एक ऐसी टीम भी जो वो बारूदी सुरंगें बिछा सके। इन हथियारों के दम पर ही मेजर चांदपुरी ने अपने जवानों के साथ उस रात पाकिस्तानी हमले का करारा जवाब दिया, जबकि उनके मुकाबले पाकिस्तानी सेना की तादाद बहुत ज्यादा थी, क्योंकि उनके पास 3000 जवानों वाली एक इन्फेंट्री ब्रिगेड थी, जिसमें 4 बटालियंस थी, और उनकी मदद के लिए T-59 टैंक्स की पूरी टैंक रेजिमेंट थी। जवानों को कहीं ले जाने के लिए मैकेनाइज्ड व्हीकल्स के अलावा 2 जर्मन शेपर्ड कुत्ते भी थे, जो बारूदी सुरंगों को सूंघ लेते थे। बड़ी बात यह थी कि पाकिस्तानी मीडियम आर्टिलरी की रेंज 25 किलोमीटर थी।
युद्ध के दौरान सबसे बड़ी लड़ाई लोंगेवाला में हुई, क्योंकि सरहद पर किसी और जगह पर पाकिस्तान ने उतना जोरदार हमला नहीं किया था जितना यहाँ किया। पाकिस्तान का इरादा था राजस्थान सेक्टर के बड़े से बड़े इलाके पर कब्जा करके बांग्लादेश में हुए नुकसान की भरपाई करना। पाकिस्तान रात में हमला करने वाला था, इसलिए उसने अपनी वायुसेना को उस वक्त एक्टिवेट नहीं किया था। चांदपुरी अपनी पोस्ट के एक-एक विकेट में जाकर अपने जवानों का हौसला बढ़ाने लगे और उन्हें पोस्ट पर चारों तरफ से हो रहे पाकिस्तानियों के हमलों का मुंह तोड़ जवाब देने के लिए उत्साहित करते रहे।
4 और 5 दिसंबर सन 1971 की पूरी रात मेजर कुलदीप चांदपुरी और उनके साथ साथ 23 पंजाब के उनके दिलेर जवानों पर पाकिस्तानियों ने जबरदस्त दबाव बनाए रखा। उसके अलावा मेजर चांदपुरी और उनके जवानों पर पाकिस्तान की आर्टिलरी सीधे गोलाबारी कर रही थी और मोटर्स दाग रही थी, और ये हमले वो टैंक्स और आर्मर्ड व्हीकल्स से कर रही थी। लेकिन भारतीय सेना ने हार नहीं मानी।
Thank you so much, Sana, for that presentation. It was very insightful. It's very true that war can teach us that we are stronger than we believe ourselves to be. And we may possess the strength, the wisdom, the insight beyond our own expectation. a warrior, he has the inner resource to do what needs to be done to get out of most in any quagmire. All that has to be done for us to remove the mental blocks that stop us from breaking through. It is just to identify our mission, what are we made for, and take that organized and necessary steps towards achieving our goal. As you have seen now, that is done by Major Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri. What a lesson. What a lesson. Thank you so much for that virtual tour, dear cadets. Now, next in line, we have CSM Kathia presenting before you the snippets from the actual warfare. CSM Kathia will take you to the war front. Kathia, over to you.
कोई सिख, कोई जाट मराठा, कोई गोरखा, कोई मद्रासी, सरहद पर मरने वाले हर वीर दा भारतवासी. Good morning. I'm Company Sergeant Major Katia Varghese from 7 Kerala Girls Battalion. Let me begin the presentation by throwing some light over the above quote. The tale of valor and heroism that our men showed at the battlefield of Longewala is still alive in the hearts of every Indian. Let me take you to that battlefield. Guns firing, tanks blowing up, and soldiers crying out in pain is a classic depiction of any chaotic army battle. Alongside physical pain, soldiers experience massive tension and psychological torture at the battlefield. If army men couple their brave hearts with a sturdy mindset, then the odds of victory land in their favor. One such exemplary mix of valor and intelligence was portrayed in this battle when Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri led a battalion of 128 class men against a massive Pakistani soldier of 2,000 soldiers. Both India and Pakistan believed that the deserts of Rajasthan and Sindh were not conducive to any major operations. Despite this, India decided to launch its forces from Sadewala, Kanod, and Kishankar. Tanks were useless as they got stuck in the soft sand. The outnumbering Pakistani army was not able to move forward due to the suspicions of mines and heavy counterattack from the Indian side. The Indian soldiers were able to defend as they were defending from a far more advantageous location scattered around the post in bunkers than as compared to the crowd of outnumbered Pakistani soldiers who were attacking on a full moon night. 6 hours were wasted for the Pakistani army due to the battlefield circumstances. In the dawn, Indian aircraft dramatically changed the course of battle towards the low-numbered Indian soldiers. It planned to capture Rahim Yar Khan from Pakistan and disrupt the Lahore-Karachi railroad link. However, Pakistani intelligence found about this plan. They thought that India would still consider a large-scale operation as unfeasible in the desert. Hence, there will be no effective opposition from Indian side. Moreover, they thought that India has not yet activated the Jaisalmer air base. So they do not expect any kind of encounter or any major action from the Indian side. Based on all these assumptions, Pakistan was all set to launch a fully packed attack on India in the Battle of Longewala. The Longewala post had an underdeveloped defense system. There were no mines or barbed wire erections. The only thing that later proved advantageous was a single strand wire the BSF had laid it to keep their camels from wandering off. At the time of attack, it gave the enemy the false impression that the actual minefield was surrounding the post. The force of 120 men, led by Major Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri, had the assistance of 2 medium machine guns and 2 81 mm mortar and 4 shoulder fire rocket launchers for anti-tank defense. On the 5th of December, 2 Jeep-borne 106 mm recoilless guns and 3 AMX light tanks also arrived to aid them. The Indian Air Force played a significant role in the changing course of war by aiding the ground battalion defense strategy. IAF jets were easily able to destroy the enemy tanks as they were still blocked in the widespread deserted battlefield. 2,500 plus soldiers were able to overcome in the morning, but they were forced to move backward due to the IAF's jet intervention. With all these facts that makes one get goosebumps, the Battle of Longewala is a reminder that Indian Army is equal with people belonging from different caste, religion or region. As I quoted in the beginning, this battle showed that Indian Army lives as a pluralistic secular society and acts like a unit. Jai Hind.
Bravo, bravo. Well said, Kathy Avargas. This is very important that cadets, youngsters like you, understand the spirit of each and every war, every mission that our Indian soldiers have taken. May that be Army, may that be Air Force, may that be Indian Navy. You know, platforms such like this becomes meaningful when you understand the spirit of what they have done for the nation. Thank you so much for explaining it in clear terms. You rightly said that war teaches us the value of a mission. True. During war, it's a hope that is the fabric that is mentally woven in the trenches of the war as a result of the pain, the suffering that the servicemen experience that matters. Consequently, it is this fabric that holds together the different aspects of a veteran's life after they return from the war. Had the soldiers lost their hope then, we would have had an entirely different story to say today. We are almost at the war front now with these cadets giving us such vibrant accounts of the events from the front line. Thank you so much, cadets, for understanding it and then giving it to us. Let us now refresh our imaginations with yet another virtual tour from our technical team. It's always nice to see and feel it. Please, over to the technical team. Cadet Badra, are you trying to present?
Yes, ma'am.
Do not worry. Take your time. Keep trying.
Fought between assaulting Pakistani forces and Indian defenders at the Indian border post of Longewala in the Thar desert of Rajasthan state in India. On the night of the 4th December 1971, Wheel's platoon conducting a patrol heard noises across the border, and it was evident that a large number of armored vehicles approaching towards India was seen. A company of the Indian Army's 23rd Battalion, Punjab Regiment, commanded by Major Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri, got in touch with the battalion headquarters requesting urgent reinforcement. Armored artillery support. Battalion headquarters gave him the choice of staying put and containing the attack as much as possible, or carrying out a tactical retreat of the company, as the reinforcements would not be available for at least 6 hours. Major Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri was left with the choice of either attempting to hold out until reinforced or fleeing on foot from the mechanized infantry Pakistan forces. Choosing the former, Chandpuri ensured that all his assets were correctly deployed and made the most use of his strong defensive position and weaknesses created by errors in enemy tactics. The Pakistani forces began their attack at 12:30 a.m. Kuldeep Singh Champuri was fortunate in that an Indian Air Force forward air controller was able to secure and direct aircraft in support of the post defense. Throughout the engagement, Major Champuri continued to direct the supporting artillery fire. Although massively outnumbering the Indian defenders and having surrounded them, the Pakistani troops were unable to advance over open terrain on a full moon night, under small arms and mortar fire from the outposts. This encouraged the Indians not to give up their defensive position, frustrating the Pakistani commanders. As dawn arrived, the Pakistani forces had still not taken the post and were now having to do so in full daylight. In attempt to capture the Longewala post, Pakistani commanders made several questionable decisions, including a failure of their strategic intelligence to foresee availability of Indian strike aircraft in the Longewala area, exercising operational mobility with little or no route reconnaissance, and conducting a tactical front at all, no engineer reconnaissance. As a result, Pakistani troops being left extremely vulnerable to airstrike and their tanks and trucks baffled in terrain. The confusion of the troops was not daylight. However, the IAF was able to operate effectively, the strike aircraft being guided to the targets by the Airborne Forward Air Controller FSC Major Atma Singh in the Hull Christian. The Indian aircraft hit the Pakistani ground troops with T-X and 30 mm fire on each. The was able to direct some HF-24 Maruts Hawker aircraft post. They were night vision from contact me with daylight. However, the IAF was able to operate effectively with the aircraft guided to the targets by the forward air control must all Christian. The impact the Pakistan troop the 16 Mata T-10 rocket and 30 mm cannon fire on each aircraft. Indian Company Commander Major, later Brigadier Kuldeep Singh Champuri he was decorated with India's second highest gallantry award, the Mahavir Chakra. Several other awards were earned by members of the defending company.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Badra. Thank you for refreshing our imaginations with that virtual tour. Thank you so much. Thank you for showcasing the Longewala Museum and the decorations of the soldiers that they have attained after such a long sacrifice. Next in line, we have the third presenter, Cadet Sana Joseph, discussing the aftermath of the Battle of Longewala. Over to you, Cadet Sana Joseph.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. My name is Cadet Sana Joseph from 7 Kerala Girls Battalion, here today presenting the aftermath of 1971 Longewala battle. How better can a man die than facing fearful odds for the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods? The Longewala battle is still remembered for the bold actions and sacrifice of the Indian soldiers. It saw heavy Pakistani losses and few Indian casualties. Pakistani losses were 200 soldiers killed. The Pakistanis suffered the destruction and abandonment of 34 tanks and the loss of 500 additional vehicles. The Judicial Commission set up at the end of war recommended the commander of 18th Division, Major General Mustafa, to be held trial for negligence during the war. Notwithstanding the Indian victory, there were intelligence and strategic failures on both sides. India's intelligence failed to provide warning of such a large armored force in the western sector. Moreover, the defending post was not heavily armed to neutralize the enemy. Finally, they did not push home the advantage by destroying the fleeing Pakistani tanks while the IAF had them on the run. They did, however, destroy or capture some 36 tanks, remaining one of the largest disproportionate tank casualties for one side in a single battle after World War II. Invading Pakistani troops, meanwhile, had underestimated the Longewala's post-defensive capability due to the difficulty of approach over sand. Conducting the attack at night in a full moonlight against stiff resistance encountered there from a well-prepared defensive position located on a dominant height. Attacking with virtually no air cover, they took too long for close an assault on the position and failed to anticipate availability of Indian close air support. Given that the Pakistani Sherman tanks and the T-59 or the Type 59 Chinese tanks were slow on the sandy Thar Desert, some military analysts have opined that the attack may have been poorly planned and executed given the terrain. Some Pakistani tanks suffered engine failures due to overheating in trying to extricate themselves and were thus abandoned. The open desert battleground provided little to no cover for the tanks and infantry from air attacks. The plan to capture Longewala may have been good in conception, but failed due to the lack of air cover. As a result, 2 tank regiments failed to take Longewala. Viewed from an Indian operational dynamics, Longewala was closely integrated air-ground operation which could not have achieved such spectacular results without the involvement of troops on the ground and flyers in the air. The bravery and courage of Indian soldiers to keep their post safe and secure was unmatched. The decision to stay on the post was a hard step, even after being aware of the tank regiments approaching them. 120 Indian soldiers were nothing in front of 2,000 Pakistani soldiers. The soldiers showed their best in deterring the Pakistani soldiers. The battle is still remembered as an outstanding achievement of the Indian Army. This was a lesson for all of the upcoming officers and will always be remembered. 50 years have passed and still the battle is remembered and the victory is celebrated to revive the Josh within the people.
Thank you so much, Cadet Sana, for that meticulous explanation to the events. You almost took her to the war front. We're almost experiencing what it feels after a war. Thank you so much, Sana, for that explanation. Well done, Cadet. Now over to the technical team for showcasing the participants of the Battle of Longewala and yet another spectacular view. Over to you, the technical team. Okay, I think there is again a technical problem. Badra, it's all right. It's perfectly all right. Okay, we will come to you after this. We'll have the next presentation then. Just please relax and take your time. All right? Just do not get worried when your video is not playing. It's perfectly all right. Okay? We will move on to the next cadet. We will move on to Cadet Joshna. She'll be giving you glimpses of the contributions of the officers at the battlefield in 1971, and this will be our last presentation. So shall we move on to Cadet Joshna?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. The brave die never, though they sleep in dust. Their courage nerves 1,000 living men. I'm Corporal Joshna Johnson from 7 Kerala Girls Battalion. Here, I present before you the heroes of the 1971 war. Brigadier Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri, MVC, VSM, was a decorated Indian Army officer. He was the hero who led the India towards victory in the Battle of Longewala during the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971, for which he was awarded the Mahavir Chakra, the second highest Indian military decoration by the Indian government. He was a major in the Indian Army at the time of the 1971 Indo-Pak War. When the battle began, they did not receive warnings of the surprise attack from the Indian intelligence. The Longewala post was unarmed even until the enemy's attack. Moreover, the enemy outnumbered the Indian side in the terms of men, weapons, and tanks. He didn't have any second thoughts. He refused the option to withdraw when given the choice. He fearlessly chose to fight for the sake of his motherland. Amidst all these troubles, he did not let his men lose their calm. He led all his 120 men with extreme patience. Under his leadership, his company succeeded in engaging the enemy all night until the Indian Air Force arrived in the morning. For his part, the Indian company commander, Major Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri, was decorated with the India's second highest gallantry award, the Mahavir Chakra. Several other war awards were earned by the members of the defending company and the battalion's commander. On the other hand, the Pakistan divisional commander was dismissed from service. However, the commander of the Pakistani 51 Brigade who mounting the daring attack and crossed into Indian territory, was later awarded Pakistani's High Award of Sitara-e-Imtiaz. Viewed from Indian operational dynamics, Longewala was a clearly integrated air-ground operation which could not have achieved such spectacular results without the participation of troops on the ground and the flyers in the air. It is fully evident that Chandpuri and his men of a company, 23 Punjab, very stoutly and courageously defended the completely isolated Longewala post against an overwhelmingly superior force of Pakistani tanks and infantry, which forced the enemy to concentrate to attack the post and thereby created the targets for the hunters to attack. Marking the spot of 1971 battle, Longewala War Memorial shows that aftermath of the war through a range of many military items. The giant tanks and jeeps of both Pakistan and Indian armies and the photographs, weapons filled the walls, which gives a glimpse of how hard the war would have been. In fact, this was an excellent example of cooperation between troops on the ground and the Air Force. Undoubtedly, the Indian Army and the Indian Air Force combined together effectively to win the Battle of Longewala. With this, I conclude. Sleep peacefully at your home because Indian Army is guarding the frontier. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Cadet Joshna, for that lively presentation exuding a lot of confidence and enthusiasm. You've really given us goosebumps. While most of us agree that war is wild, its flip side is that beyond the battle lies the belief that there is something better. Are we not gathering here today discussing this battle amidst this corona just to find the better you, my dear cadets? Yes. If it did not happen, we did not think. This war, this discussion, doesn't that make you think of what we have already come through, the way that we have already cut through, where we stand today? And doesn't that tell you of the way that is ahead of us to march ahead? We want to believe that the fight was fought for a noble cause, purpose, for a reason, and that people, their heart, their mind were not sacrificed in vain. Veterans of war, they're courageous, they are mindful, they are mission driven and loyal to the core. Isn't that a lesson to us? We can all learn to appreciate life no matter how challenging the situation we may be going through. Every war is a lesson for humanity, my dear cadets. So anyway, I'll take you to that virtual tour Badra was trying to present. Are you ready, Badra? And Maria, the technical team, are you ready for the presentation we couldn't do earlier?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you can go ahead with that. Thank you so much, Cadet Sana, for the presentation. Thank you. And next in line, we have the platform open for interaction. Yes, the platform is all yours, officers and cadets. Please feel free to add to the content that we have already discussed so far. Yes, the platform is open.
Good morning to everyone.
Good
Am I
morning.
audible? Am I audible?
Yes, please
Okay.
introduce yourself. Please
Myself,
introduce.
Cadet Varghese. So my question is about, despite of all those harsh terrains of Rajasthan, as well as those insecurely weaponized plots of the battlefield, India got a great victory over Battle of Longewala. So, what do you think was that real hidden strategy of the Indian warriors that helped them to achieve a great success over this battle to win over Pakistan?
Okay. Presenters. I request any of the presenters to please address the question. Do you want a repeat of the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you want a repeat of the question? You want the question to be repeated?
No, ma'am. I've got the idea, ma'am.
Please introduce and then continue.
Yes, ma'am. I'm CSM Katia Varghese from 7 Kerala Battalion. So the question mainly pointed out about the strategy that India had taken up during the Battle of Longewala. Well, speaking about India's strategy, it was quite complicated and was a very strong strategy. Since we had East Pakistan as a center of gravity for the war, India had an offensive strategy at the east, an offensive defensive strategy at the west, and a defensive at the north borders. And the offensive strategy at the east could easily be a reason that we had a decisive victory in this war, because it gave the international community more of a less time to intervene into the situation. The idea that Pakistan had in mind was to make a lag and provide more time for the international community so that the war would be a victory from their side. But according to our strategy, they couldn't pull forward, and the execution of their plans became a total failure. And that would be one of the main reasons that we could win the Battle of Longewala. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you so
answering.
much. Thank you for the question as well as the answer. The language you use itself tells us how much you would have read on the narratives of war narratives, right? Good. That was the intention of the webinar as such. Yeah. Any more questions? Please feel free to ask questions. If you want, you can use the chat box if you have any questions over there. You can use the chat box. I don't
Good
find any
morning, ma'am.
questions. Yeah, please introduce and ask your question.
I'm Cadet Anjali M. Nair. We know that during the battle, India had a plan to capture Rahimul Khan of Pakistan. How do you think Pakistan intelligence came to know about it? Did they succeed in letting a spy into our territory? What strategy was deployed by Pakistan to confront such highly confidential data from our military base?
Okay, I'm again Katia Varghese. I would point out a very few keywords that you have mentioned in your question. So as per the question, you've asked whether a spy was deployed by the Pakistani troops in our territory, but that's not the case. It wasn't a spy attack. Indeed, it was something else that was, first of all, we should know what is Rahimyar Khan means. Rahimyar Khan was a city in Pakistan. It's about 300 miles away from Lahore. And according to the question, Pakistan had deployed their 51 infantry brigade and some paramilitary personnel over those borders. And therefore, we had the wrong idea that Pakistan had not haven't pulled forward their personnel over the borders. And this was the reason that we couldn't execute the plans properly and capture Rahimyar Khan. According to Indian intelligence, there was just an armored regiment of Shermans to support the brigade, but that was not the case. There was a T-59 brigade and 2 Shermans at the borders. And speaking about Rahim Yar Khan, this place was actually a canal irrigated area, and Pakistan had not developed any roads to its south part. And towards the south of this place, we had a sandy desert. And once the Indian troop went forward to capture Rahim Yar Khan, they understood that there was an array of soldiers already preparing for a war at that sand belt. And that is the reason that we couldn't capture Rahim Yar Khan. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you so much for your question as well as the answer. As a teacher, I'm contented, I'm happy that you have researched so well, you have understood so well, and as an officer, I'm happy that you have got the spirit of it. Thank you so much, my dear cadets. I look forward to interactions from, yes, any more questions? Any more questions? If not, we will move on to, we are almost done with it. We will move on to the vote of thanks. To propose a vote of thanks, I invite Under Officer Alfonso Agustin. Alfonso, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. When 4Gs are committing what you are calling acts of bravery, a medal is the last thing on their mind. It is Izzat, Apni, Paltan ki, or Sabse Upar Desh ki. We are fighting for honor, our own, our units, and above all, our countries. These words of Brigadier Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri strengthens the selfless acts of each soldier in Indian Army. Good afternoon to all. I'm Junior Under Officer Alfonso Agustin. Honorable dignitaries, officers, most valued invited girls and cadets. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this intergroup webinar on the topic Battle of Longewala, the military might of India. We would like to acknowledge our gratitude to Major General Mandeep Singh Gill, Additional Director General of Kerala and Lakshadweep NCC Directorate, for his support. And we are grateful to Commodore Hari Krishna Sir, Group Commander of Ernakulam Group, for his inspiring address and encouragement. Thank you, sir. Now, we would like to mention a profound sense of appreciation towards Colonel Joseph Anthony, Commanding Officer of 7 Kerala Girls Battalion, for being our rock-solid support system. Thank you so much, sir. We extend our gratitude to Major Sheila Matthew, Administrative Officer of 7 Kerala Girls Battalion, for her enormous cooperation in the organization of this webinar. Thank you, ma'am. I also express our gratitude to Lieutenant Lavji KN, Associate NCC Officer of Vimala, for her guidance and excellent moderation of the event. Thank you, ma'am. Next, I thank all the GCAs, officers, ANOs for being here and supporting us. Thank you all. I mention our deep sense of appreciation to all the presenters for giving an excellent coverage to the topics. Thank you. I may like to express our sincere thanks to all the participants in this webinar for your active participation and presence. Thank you. I would like to thank the coordinators and those who worked for making this event a success. Thank you all. Once again, thank you all. For the kind attention of all the participants, there is a feedback form in the chat box. So please have a look. All, stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you so much, Alfonso. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Hope we had thrown light on the most important war India had ever fought and won, and what humanity ought to imbibe from such wars. Stay safe, follow the COVID protocol, wear double mask, keep sanitizing, and let us be the warriors we are born for to save the nation. If not now, then when? Vande Mataram. Jai Hind. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you.